God is not giving influence in this season to people who need self-aggrandizement and self-promotion. God is giving influence to humble people who will lay on their face before God and say, to God be the glory for the things he has done. In order to have impact, God has to give you influence in the eyes of the people. And that's something that God has to do. Because you cannot control how people see you. Your arrogance is a lethal weapon that ought to be registered, because you cannot say, I don't know. Little moment for preachers. It is not what you know about the text that makes you a great preacher. It's what you ask of the text. If you come to the text as a fool, you will leave as a professor. But if you come to the text as a professor, you will walk away as a fool. Say it again. I don't know. For we know not what to pray for as we ought, but the Spirit itself maketh intercession for us with groanings and moanings that cannot be uttered. We don't know, we don't know, we don't know, we don't know. We don't know what it's going to be like. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. We don't know how to live in the promised land. We don't know how to fight this kind of fight. We don't know Joshua like we knew Moses. We don't know where we are. We're in transition. And when you're in transition, nobody has to say anything for you to be irritable. You're irritable because you're scared. You're irritable because your norm has been shattered. You're irritable because you're in a nebulous place. You're irritable because you have landed in the city, but you haven't checked into the hotel. Tradition will not produce transformation. Transformation is personal. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. That's personal. That's not congregational. You don't get transformation because you go to the potter's house. You can go to the potter's house until you're an old woman, but if you are not transformed by the renewing of your mind, you won't be able to make it. In Romans 8, when it talks about, we know that all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord. For we know. And then it finally says, we know not what to pray for as we ought. That humility of saying we know not is, I don't know. Joshua, you don't know how to lead. Israel, you don't know how to follow. Joshua doesn't know how to lead. I know he doesn't know how to lead because the first thing he does is pull out his sword against an angel and ask God, whose side are you on? What? Watch, I don't know produces a praying church who wants God to be on your side more than you seek to be on his side. Are you spending all your time trying to talk God to bless what you plan? Or are you humbly coming to him and say, Lord, give me your plan? Because I don't know. I don't know how to do this. Today I'm going to talk to you about three things and I'll be gone. I'm going to talk to you about influence. I'm going to talk to you about impediments. And I'm going to talk to you about instigators. I'm going to talk to you about influence. I'm going to talk to you about impediments, because that's what the flood is, an impediment, and I'm going to talk to you about instigators. Give me a few minutes and I'll be done. What God says to Joshua is vitally important. He says, I am going to magnify you in the eyes of the people. Which means God says, I am going to give you influence. Don't confuse affluence with influence. Because there are many people who are affluent, but they don't have influence. They're affluent, they're well known, they're recognizable, they have big names, they have big offices, they have big suites, but they don't have effect on the people who follow them. affluence does not equate with influence. God says to Joshua, I'm going to give you influence. Effluence is leadership flowing out of him. It's what flows out of you. It's what flows out of, it's not just what you say, it's stuff that subconsciously emits. Like the effluence is the lava that flows out of a rock. Effluence is it's not just what you're doing and what you're saying, what is flowing out of you affects everything around you. The subconscious things that you emit into the atmosphere is effluence. So we got affluence, we got influence, and we got effluence. He was already effluent, or he would have been or he would not have been commanding or leading people. He was a warrior, but because he was a warrior didn't make him Moses. Influence, however, is the ability to have a measurable impact on others' decisions, behaviors, and affect outcomes. Influence. And there's not a person in this room or a person watching online who doesn't need influence. If it's just over your daughter, if it's just over your son, if it's just in your job and in your position or with your team or on your staff, whatever it is that's up under your auspices, it's a terrible thing to lead something without influence. When we think of great influencers who positively or even controversially affected the world around them, we mustn't confuse their affluence here either. In reality, many influencers may not have been affluent at all. Martin Luther wasn't affluent, but when he translated the Latin scriptures over into the German language in 1522, it gave him influence that led to the Protestant movement, of which we and Baptists and Methodists and AMEs and United Methodists and Church of God in Christ and Church of God and Church of God in Prophecy and everybody else is a part of the collective protest that came when the Bible fell into the hands of people who could read it. It gave him influence because it affected our behavior, our decisions, and our choices. How effective are you at influencing other people's behaviors, decisions, and outcomes? That influence doesn't come by yelling, screaming, arguing, nagging, complaining, cussing people out, breaking dishes, going at them with skillets. You can't make people respect you. You cannot buy respect. Giving me gifts, sending me cards, giving me money doesn't make me respect you to the point of affecting my decisions, my outcomes. Oh my God, I'm preaching. God said, I am going to magnify you before the people. Don't confuse titles with influencers. You get more, I'm the apostle, that's the big thing now. I'm apostle, I'm a chief apostle. I'm going from a bishop to being an apostle. I'm going to be an apostle, but I was a bishop. And the other guy's an apostle, but he's getting ready to be coronated a bishop. Shut up! Changing the title doesn't change the impact. If you have influence, you got influence whether they gave you the title or not. Titles are not influence. Don't confuse degrees and education and intellect with influence. You can have more degrees than a thermometer and influence absolutely nobody. God says to Joshua, I'm going to magnify you in the eyes of the people. Here's the question, because some of you, God is getting ready to magnify you in the eyes of the people. If God magnifies you, would you magnify him? Oh, magnify the Lord with me and let us exalt his name together. If God gives you the power to influence people's decisions, outcome, and purpose, would you then magnify God, or would you magnify yourself and brag about how smart you are and how capable you are? Because God is not giving influence in this season to people who need self-aggrandizement and self-promotion. God is giving influence to humble people who will lay on their face before God and say, to God be the glory for the things he has done. Are you in the building? Give me some power on the mic. Are you in the building? Are you here in the building? Are you in the balcony? Are you up there in the balcony anywhere? Are you online anywhere? Is there anybody left that God can magnify you, and you will remember to magnify the Lord? God created trouble to give him influence. Which leads me to impediments. I'm going from an influence to impediment. Can I take a little bit longer today? Because I came fully loaded. I didn't bring a Happy Meal. I brought a 5-course filet mignon dinner served in segments and courses with sorbet in between each segment. Are you ready for this? The flood was an impediment. The flood was an impediment that God used to increase Joshua's influence. You've been asking God to move the impediment. But if God removes the impediment, you won't have the influence. How you respond to your impediment is what gives you influence. Watch this. Oh God, I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm so excited. See, Joshua, when he was up under Moses, had seen the grapes. He had seen the grapes of the promised land. He had foretasted the grapes, but he had not seen the flood. The flood was associated with the harvest, so it didn't flood all the time. So the last time Joshua was there, he talks about the giants that were in the land, the sons of Anak, but he doesn't mention the flood. He had sent spies over, but they don't come back talking about the flood. They had not seen the flood. Remember Joshua 3:15, the Bible says the Jordan overfloweth all his banks all the time of harvest. The flood and the harvest are connected. Joshua has come to the promised land at the time of the harvest, which means it's raining a lot. And all the waters of Jerusalem have no place to flow but down. I've been to Israel. I've seen the Sea of Galilee. I've been to the Jordan River. I was shocked when I got to the Jordan River. Were you shocked when you got to the Jordan River? I was shocked when I got to the Jordan River. I was disappointed when I got to the Jordan River. I was expecting to at least see the Kanawha River, the river from Charleston. I thought it would be like a river. I got to the Jordan River, man, it looked like a creek. I said, so John was baptized. The Jordan River is no wider than this stage. I was so disappointed because in my head, I saw something that was big. But when I came to the Jordan River, it was not during a flood. So if you come to my backyard and it hadn't been a flood, it's actually quite dry. But because it's in a floodplain, if you come at another time, bring your swimming trunks. Because the little pond in my backyard overflows to the point that I had to claim insurance and rebuild, not because I live with the river in my backyard, but in that season, it flooded. You are in a flooding season. And the Lord wants you to hear this word today, because the Lord ordered the impediment of the flood to give you influence. How you handle this flood will determine the influence for the rest of your life, because you are leading a group of people who have no point of reference. So God has simulated a crisis to prove his promise that as I was with Moses, so shall I be with you. So God has turned a creek into a river so that he can demonstrate his power in your life. Instead of rebuking the devil and pleading the blood, I want you to thank God for the flood in your life. Come on, come on, come on. Because the flood is a sign that the harvest is in process, and the flood is a sign that God is about to give you influence beyond your wildest dreams, because how you deal with this impediment will determine the influence that you walk in the rest of your life. And if you don't cross this Jordan, you will never kill the Canaanites, the Gerishites, the Hivites, the Hittites, or the Jebusites. Everything you're gonna be depends on how you handle this flood. It was a creek when you saw it. Now it's a flood when you get up to it. And you're standing there at the Jordan wondering what to do. You don't need evacuation. You need ammunition. Joshua is leading the people to where he has already been, just like Moses led them to the place he'd already been. You cannot lead people to places you haven't gone. So stop trying to be a tour guide in a place you don't know nothing about. So Joshua is leading them to a place that he has been before. He is proficient at crossing the Jordan when it's not a flood. But now it's a flood. And all he has is the promise of God that as I was with Moses, so shall I be with you. The only difference is, I'm gonna hurry on. The only difference is that at the Red Sea, Moses stretched forth his rod and the waters parted and they walked across on dry ground. But when Joshua gets to the Jordan, and the flood has turned it into an amazing river, and Joshua stands there at the Jordan River, and standing there is not working. He can't stretch forth his rod. That's not working. God said, I'm going to be with you like I was with Moses, but I'm not going to do it like I did with Moses. So you can't imitate your Moses and cross your Jordan. Who am I preaching to? In this place, slap your neighbor and say, I'm going to cross over. I'm about to cross over. I'm about to leave the old me and cross over to a new me. I'm about to leave my old place and cross over to a new place. I'm about to step out of this zone and step into that zone. Everybody won't be able to go with me. So some people are going to have to stay on this side of the Jordan, because not every tribe is able to cross over a floodplain. But the Lord sent me here to preach to somebody that's standing in front of a flood. You can't bring everybody with you. Some people got to pitch their tent out in the desert because they are desert babies. They are not kingdom builders. And you got to let them pitch their tent within their comfort zone. But there are a few of us that have come too far to fall short of the promise of God. Is there anybody in this house that's come too far to settle on the desert. You've been through too much. You cried too many nights. You endured hardness. And whatever you got to go through, I'm going to step into this Jordan and make something happen. Give me 30 seconds of crazy praise. I gotta go all the way. I gotta go all the way. If mama don't go, if daddy don't go, if sister don't go, if brother don't go, I got to go all the way. I don't know how to work it. My rod ain't working, but I'm gonna do something to get my miracle from the Lord. Maybe you stretch forth your rod and it worked for Moses, but it didn't work for you. It's not Moses' method. It's Moses' anointing that is on you to cross over this season in your life. If I'm answering prayers, if I'm answering questions, if I'm speaking to your destiny, holla at your boy. There is no way to get to the grace without dealing with the impediments. The things that impede your progress are a sign of your progress. There wouldn't be an impediment if there weren't grapes on the other side of this, if there wasn't milk and honey on the other side of this. Slap your neighbor and say, get to the other side. If you gotta crawl, if you gotta get muddy, if you gotta stretch out, if you gotta do something unusual, if you gotta be disruptive, if you gotta break a chain, if you gotta break a yoke, make something happen. The Lord told me to tell you, make it happen. Type it on the line. I'm gonna make it happen. Hear you. You ain't mad enough. You ain't radical enough. You're not aggressive enough. I'm going to give you another chance to make some noise if you're going to make it happen. Anytime you switch roles in front of people, it's hard for them to see you in the new light. They say, I knew you when. You know, if you were an hourly worker and now you become a part of management, the people who are hourly workers feel like you betrayed them and they start acting funny. Oh, now you a boss. Oh, now you to rule over me. Anytime you go through transitions, then the environment around you becomes frustrated because they say you change as if that was a terrible thing. Oh, you change. Yes, I changed. Everything living changes. Everything living changes. Yeah, I'm supposed to change. It would be a shame for me to be 40 years old and not change, 50 years old and not change, 35 years old and still acting like I'm 12. I change as a part of the sign that God lives in me and he dwells in me and he develops me and he increases me. Say amen, somebody. So when Joshua moves into this new role, what fascinated me in the text is that God says to Joshua that I will exalt you or I will increase you in the eyes of the people. Okay, I will raise you up. And this gives you influence because titles don't give you influence. Okay, just because they call you something don't make you that. Influence enables you to act on what they call you effectively. One of the things I pray for all the time, I never prayed to be famous. I never prayed to be famous. I never prayed to be a public figure. I never even wanted any of that. I prayed to be effective. Because the thing that I don't want to be is not effective. Are you hearing what I'm saying? And so when you start talking about influence, let's define influence. Influence is the capacity to have an effect on the character development, or behavior of someone or something, or effect itself, like the influence of television violence. It could be a thing, it could be a person, but it makes you effective at producing change. It's influence. It's quantifiable. You can measure your impact. And I was thinking about sometimes when I was younger, I'd have dreams, and there'd be somebody chasing me, or I'd be in a fight with somebody, and I'd be punching them, but it had no effect. Anybody have those kind of dreams where you just couldn't get that good one in, you know, and then you thought you landed it, but it just turned into nothing? That's a nightmare. I'd wake up almost screaming. Or you're running, but you can't get up any speed. You can't get up any traction. Some people live their lives like I had my dream. They punch without impact. They run without gaining ground. They expend energy, but they see no results. In order to have impact, God has to give you influence in the eyes of the people. And that's something that God has to do. Because you cannot control how people see you. I don't care if you change your hair, change your dress, change your clothes, get more degrees than a thermometer, spin all around, do whatever you want to do. You cannot control how people see you. God can control how people see you. And so God says, I'm going to control how they see you for my glory. Now, I'm not going to change how the whole world sees you, but I'm going to give you influence in proportion to the authority that I've given you. So this message is a one-size-fits-all message. It will work whether you're the governor or the president or a papa and you just want to influence your son, or a wife and you just want to influence your husband. Whatever you have dominion over, you want to have influence. So the less time you have, the more valuable it becomes. I can't stand for you to waste my time, because my time is valuable to me. I don't want to engage my effort doing things that I am not effective at. And sometimes you have to pray for God to give you the stature that is necessary, not in your eyes, in the eyes of those that you hope to influence. So God created trouble to raise Joshua's influence. Okay, that's where we left off Sunday. God created trouble because how you manage crisis changes how people see you. Okay, so we started talking about the president in Ukraine, and we started talking about how he said, I don't need evacuation, I need ammunition. And all of a sudden that one phrase changed how people saw him. What you say in a storm changes how people see you, changes how they respect you. That's why the enemy's always trying to get you to go off under pressure, because the enemy knows that if you go off under pressure, you decrease your influence with your hysteria. If you want to be strong under pressure, then you gain influence under pressure. And in order to be strong, there are certain things that you need to know. You need to know that you are doing what you were created to do, even if it's not a big thing, even if it's not a great thing to other people. It only matters to the people that it matters to, and it shouldn't matter to you what outside people think about inside influence. The reason we have so much misery in the world today is that because social media tempts you to try to get outside people to form an opinion about your inside ability. And all of a sudden, if they don't like the post, you want to take it down. Or if they say something weird, you want to freak out about it. But in reality, I'm letting you observe something that is frankly none of your business. You understand? So your opinion doesn't really matter to me. If I don't have any authority with you, then it's just an opinion, and opinions are common. Everybody's got one. Everybody's got one. And when you bring yourself down to the point that you allow people to make you come off the wall that God has assigned you on because of somebody's opinion who is not assigned to you, then you give up your influence over the people you have influence with because of somebody that doesn't even matter one way or the other. It doesn't even make any sense. Are you hearing what I'm saying? So it's not enough for God to raise your influence in the eyes of external people if you're leaking internally. Oh yeah, we're about to go there. We're about to go there. We're about to get down into the depths of it. We're about to get down into the depths of why Paul prayed in Ephesians that the eyes of your understanding being enlightened, that you might know. You have to know. It's not enough for them to know if you don't know what is the hope of your calling. So in order for me to have influence, it starts in me. I cannot convince outside people to believe something about me that I don't believe about myself. That will make you an imposter. And the stress many of us have right now is that we have imposter syndrome, where we feel like we are living a fake life. And we think that we're living a fake life not because we have inconsistencies, because we all do, but because we are not convinced of our purpose. So Paul prays that the eyes of your understanding may be enlightened. Okay, you can't be an external light if you don't have internal light. That the eyes of your understanding might be enlightened. So before God starts elevating Joshua in the eyes of the people, he talks to Joshua by himself. And he says, as I was with Moses, so shall I be with you. Be strong and very courageous, for I am with thee to deliver thee whithersoever thou goest. Joshua, you have to know you're the man. Then he created the swelling of the Jordan to give an outer display of what he had convinced Joshua of inwardly. So the question tonight for you is, are you convinced? Y'all not talking to me, but I'm talking to you. Are you convinced? Because if you're not convinced, the enemy has already defeated you. You cannot influence where you are not fully persuaded. So Paul prays that the eyes of your understanding might be enlightened, that you might know, not wish, not hope, not think, but that you might know what is the hope of his calling, and what is the riches of his inheritance in the saints, and what is the exceeding greatness of his power to usward who believe. You have to know that. This is my purpose. This is my place. This is my gift. This is what I do. This is what I am. It's not about you knowing it. I have to know it first. You can't have more of this without having more of that. It all connects together. And when God increases your influence, he will also increase your enemies. So how do you thrive in an environment of conflict? God has increased Joshua's influence with his people but he has also increased Joshua's enemies. The Hittites, the Jebusites, the Gerishites, the Canaanites are riding around on chariots on top of the wall. Why? Because Joshua's having an increase. Yeah, who am I talking to tonight? Anytime God gives you increase, you'll look out and you'll see barriers and restrictions that you never saw before. You'll see what was a creek turn into a river and overflow its banks and flood, because you're on the verge of stepping into another level of influence. And when you're on the verge of stepping into another level of influence, there will be certain floods that come in your life, and you have to be prepared to deal with the flood so that you can get to the harvest. Are you hearing what I'm saying? So why is influence the currency of impact and purpose? You can't, if this water is just water, but if I put Kool-Aid in it, I will influence it. Okay? It will never be water again. If something as simple as a tablespoon of Kool-Aid will influence this water, how can you live a life where you are being poured into something that doesn't change? Somebody ought to miss you. Somebody ought to call you. Somebody ought to see about you. Somebody ought to think, oh, if you were here, my life would be better. Influence is not just about you. It is about your ability to affect the behavior of those around you. Come on. The day you walk in a room and they don't look up, you've lost influence. The day you walk in the room, they keep on reading the book, you've lost influence. I don't care whether it's your kids, your wife, your husband. You need to measure influence. How did I change what I was exposed to? And the reason we get frustrated sometimes is that days go by which we can't get back again. Weeks go by which we can't get back. Months go by which we can't get back. And we cannot see our impact on those that matter most around us. I'm telling you. But I say that's real. It's hard to come into a situation where it's still just like it was before you got there. If I pour myself into you, you ought to turn into something else. If I pour myself into you, you ought to turn into something else. If I pour my wisdom into you, you ought to turn into something else. Because if you don't turn into something else, it suggests to me that I'm impotent and I have no influence in your life, which leads to frustration because I'm not seeing any result. So that brings us to the question, can influence be increased? Go to Luke 2:52. Some of y'all know exactly where I'm going with this. And Jesus increased in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. Jesus increased in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. Some people think if you increase with God, you can't increase with man. Oh, come on, I'm gonna talk to the deep folks in here a minute. You running around with all this kind of people. You doing all of this kind of stuff. You doing all of that. They think true holiness is increasing with favor with God and not with man. But Jesus increased with favor with God and somebody shout increase. Okay, if I'm going to increase my influence, I've already told you there's going to be some restrictions, and there's going to be some attacks, and there's going to be some adversities. But as I am exposed to it, God builds up my tolerance to the level of my influence. Oh, is somebody getting anything out of this tonight? God builds up my tolerance to the level of my influence. That's why I don't want to live your life, because I haven't been built up enough to have tolerance to be you. I have tolerance to handle my level of influence. That's why I can't put my mouth on you and what you did, because I don't know what you're going through on your level. Oh, y'all don't hear what I'm saying. It's easy for people to sit back in a cracker box and start talking about somebody on Capitol Hill because you don't have tolerance for the level of pressure they're under. You say, I don't understand. No, you don't understand, so shut up. To the people that God is increasing, don't stop growing because of the attacks. Because the attacks are not worthy to be compared to the glory that shall be revealed in you. Don't stay down low to make other people comfortable. Don't diminish yourself so that you won't make them uncomfortable. Their comfort is not your responsibility. Go ahead and make them uncomfortable and let them say whatever they've got to say, because God is getting ready to increase your influence. Who am I talking to? In fact, you can tell who can grow with you and who can go with you by who gets uncomfortable at your growth.